Hello, everyone. Chat room set up. Make sure that I'm in. Yeah, I'm in the streaming section of the Discord, so if anybody wants to join in, totally do that. So, first things first, as always, this is Tabletop Audio. Free music, works with Amazon Alexa, works with Google Assistant, works with SoundPad, can be supported on Patreon, also has a PayPal donate link. You have to go to the About section for that. That's in the upper right corner up here. Also apparently has shirts and a blog, stuff like that. I went a donate button, yeah. So yeah, I'm terrible at telling people about things, if you hadn't noticed. But anyway, tabletop audio, free music, 10-minute background tracks that you can just kind of like set and forget sort of style. Creator is Tim, professional composer, sound designer from Brooklyn, New York. And they play tabletop RPGs with their kids. And so, since they're a musician, they make music. And so, they make this stuff for their kids when they're playing D&D. And then they were like, hey, you know what? I can put this online. And so they did. And so they've got a place to be hired. They've got contact and social, all that kind of stuff. And, anyone's allowed to use their work with, as long as it's non-profit with attribution, things like that. And if you are making money, then if it's just a little bit, they're like okay with it, which like make sure people know that they're the ones doing it. And outside of that, if you're making money, like actual money, then talk to Tim and get sort of a licensing agreement set up. So so tabletop audio, that's going to be in our background. We are again in the horror section. Starting with the Lunar Outpost, and then just kind of this range here from Lunar Outpost, sewers, zombies, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, go click play. That'll be on in the background. While we return to Richemulot and look at the Gnawing plague. I ended up talking with one of my friends a bit, and we had a ton of fun talking about using this backdrop where I talked more about I talked about the Strigoi and the Sturge kind of thing, and then we also had a lot of fun talking about making like a full Doings of Dread campaign that involved Darkon at the center. All very interesting. Anyway, so the Gnawing Plague, known as the Gnaws, is known in every corner of Richemulot. Good to know. That's actually a good question that I kind of have, is like, there's only the one city and the surrounding countryside. Does the surrounding countryside get affected? Because they lock the city down. So is it like everyone gets affected thing, or is it one of those like only a few people get affected? It's very unsure, I don't know what's going on with all that. Anyway. Transmission, the Gnaws, as the plague is known, is spread when a creature is bitten by a rat, giant rat, swarm of rats, or were-rat that carries the disease. No! Jacqueline, why? Everything about her is awful. She destroys her own people just as much as she destroys others, or by coming into physical contact with an infected creature. Okay, so, in other words, not biting, just touching. Infection. Creatures exposed to the disease must succeed on a DC 10 con saving throw or become infected. The DC of the throw can increase depending on the severity of the plague spread. See Cycle of the Plague below. It takes 1d2 days for the gnawing plague symptoms to manifest in an infected creature. The infected creature then gains 1 level of exhaustion, regains only half the normal number of hit points for spending hit dice, and spends no hit points from finishing, and regains no hit points from finishing a long rest. That's pretty wild. That's gonna hurt. The plague symptoms will include buboes, fatigue, splotchy rashes, sweats, and shaking, particularly facial tremors. Locals liken these twitches to the sniffing of rats. Sufferers will often have scraps of leather placed in their mouths to prevent their teeth from shattering, though they inevitably gnaw through these scraps. That's not good. Recovery. At the end of each long rest, an infected creature must make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 1 level of exhaustion. On a successful save, the creature's exhaustion level decreases by 1. If a successful saving throw reduces the infected creature's level of exhaustion below 1, the creature recovers from the disease. Immunity. All forms of rats and were-rats are immune to the gnawing plague. Oh, that's good. That's good. At least they're safe. But that's a good question that I'm now thinking about, which is... That's not a very scary plague. A DC 10 Constitution save? That's... I guess 50% of the populace is instantly sick. And then 50% of the populace is not. Because a commoner... Yeah, it's all 10s, right? Yeah, it's all 10s. So we're looking at, so if we've got 100 people, we'll say, it's a spread. It's actually 55% because it's 10 and above, but we're just gonna say it's a 50-50 spread, because it's always better to take kind of like low odds so that it can look better. So 50-50 spread. So 50 people get sick, 50 people are fine. The next day, 25 people are no longer sick, 25 people are even sicker, and then the next day, it's a 12 are sicker, 12 are back to 1, and we'll say the half guy dies somehow, and then, or no, because it's exhaustion, which is disadvantage on ability checks. Yeah. So it would be 50-50, and then they have the first level of exhaustion. So it would be, like a 75-25, let's say. So a quarter of 50 is, 12 is 48, so let's say there's like 12 guys who make the check and are now not sick. And can you get reinfected? They say it's a different plague each time, so maybe you can't get reinfected. So that's interesting. You gain the level of exhaustion. So there'd still be 36, we'll say it's 38 people that are sick at level 1, and go on to being level 2 sick. And then those 38, another quarter of them, so almost 10, so we'll just say 8 make it, and go back down to 1. And then of those 8, it'll be 2 while the rest get sick again. So yeah, that's pretty bad. That for the average populace, we're looking at a 50% infection rate, and then once it affected, we're looking at a 25% recovery chance, with a 75% death chance, and it just keeps like getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I don't know statistics that well or anything like that, so obviously there's more, and anybody who's like good at it would be like, but the math is actually technically this, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. But I know what I'm kind of looking at here, which is this is pretty bad. Wizards beware. This is a wizards beware situation. Gnawing Plague is an ever-present threat in Richemulot, and at any given time, every community in the domain is in one of 4 stages. Whether you find yourself in a community... Interesting, 4 stages. Determine what stage that community is experiencing and if it's different from the day before. Huh. So it's going out amongst the countryside. Is that them testing it? Is that them testing new sections of the plague? Anyway, progressing stages. When the player's progress begins at stage 1, advances to stage 4, and then either wanes back to stage 1 or ends when everyone in the community is dead. Each stage can last for days or weeks and is appropriate for your adventures. Alternatively, if you'd like to have the plague play out more randomly, roll a d20 each day. If you roll a 2 or lower, the stage decreases by 1. If you roll a 17 or higher, the stage increases by 1. If the players spend at least 1 hour during the day working to treat the sick, the stage will decrease by 1 if you roll a 4 or lower. So the party is worth a 10% chance. Interesting. Let the plague cycle proceed for as long as your adventures demand. Technically, this is definitely not... Like our 25%, 75% rating, this is not this is nowhere near that. They're giving you a pretty decent chance. 10% chance. They're giving you a bad chance of healing, which is 10% chance. And then a 17 or higher, so 17, 18, 19, 20. Even that's only a 20% chance. So it's 10 and 20, which is nowhere near the backroom sad math I made of a 3 times multiplier. They tend to, like, the people who make this game, they know their mechanics, they know their math. So perhaps my math is very off. I don't know how. It's probably something to do with how statistics works, but it would be interesting to know if they, like, did the math appropriately, or whether they're just like, this sounds right. Anyway. Let the plague's cycles proceed for as long as your adventure demands, waxy or waning whenever most dramatic. Plague will never kill everyone in Richemulot. There will always be a miracle cures or reasons for Jacqueline Rainier to withdraw her infected rat swarms. The cities will then repopulate swiftly, with new residents emerging from the mists to little notice. Yikes, that's terrifying. This ensures that after a period of relative peace, the plague's next wave is just as devastating as the last. You could... Hold on a sec. I think... Domain of disease... Hallmarks, mistalismans, a plague mask, a rat's tail, or a snake oil curative. Ooh, I like the idea of you forcing the party through like a horrific giant plague scenario. It's like you're escaping the plague. You know, you have a plague mask, you got rat's tails, snake oil curative, all that stuff, and then like you arrive at Richemulot, and it's just like, no, it's worse. It's so much worse. Poor people. So... This ensures that after a period of relative peace, the plague's next wave is just as devastating as the last. Yeah, it would be. Especially because the people who arrive don't know anything about the local, like, politics. And so all they got is all these people saying, like, well, we're thinking of changing up the political spectrum. And, like, you start getting into talks about that around the time that they're probably just about to start trying to decide on something is when it all goes down again. Let's see. At its calmest, the plague is not obvious in the population. The plague behaves as detailed in the Gnawing plague section, and isn't likely to spread unless an influx of the Dark Lord's rats causes it to. Okay, so yeah, I get that. The rats aren't actively attacking anyone, so threat is basically the same as nothing. Like, a person could get it, but unlikely. It's only going to be the people who, like, go around rats a lot. Get it. Coughing can be heard in the streets. Furtive looks pass between strangers, and the casques silencieux appear in increasing numbers. During this stage, whenever a character goes out in public, roll or choose an encounter from the Stage 2 Encounters table. If exposed to the Gnawing Plague, a character must succeed on a Constitution saving throw to resist the disease with the DC listed in the table entry for that encounter. Character must succeed on a DC listed in the table entry. Oh, interesting. So 1 is the character will avoid direct contact, and is very good at that. 2 is how many people brush up against the character as they push through the crowds. The character must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw, or contract the Gnawing Plague. Oh, this is why it gets bad. Because it's just going to keep rising in difficulty. A nearby person turns and coughs directly onto the character, who must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw, or contract the Gnawing Plague. Oh man, this would be the worst thing to do to people right now. Like, people, I don't think people would be super okay with hanging out in these lands after after everything that we've been through recently with COVID and all that. And it's like starting to re-go back up because COVID's Delta variant's out now. But man, a rat scurries across the character's foot. If they are not wearing metal armor, it scratches them and they must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or contract the Gnawing Plague. Hey, yeah, that seems fair, but I would describe it not as scurrying across the character's foot. I'd say like you feel something scratching, you look down, you see a rat running off. I'd give the idea that, something happened with their foot or something like that. Also, I get what they mean by metal armor, because, like, metal blocks, but, like, leather's pretty good, too. I would say as long as they're not wearing full body armor, which probably is only certain metal armors anyway, but, it's being pedantic, but it doesn't matter, it's good. A sobbing child is separated from their parents in a crowd. A character who physically interacts with the child must succeed on a DC 14 saving throw or contract the plague. Oh man, just gonna have the kid sneeze right in your face. Cut Purse tries to pick the character's pocket. If you try to physically stop the criminal, you must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or contract the Gnawing Plague. The DC 14 is the highest. It's not that big, but each PC having something happen to them could be interesting. I would also consider looking into... I guess I would roll. Rolling for each day sounds kind of fun to give the party that sense of, like, they don't really know what's going on, but I would probably pretty wildly change the rolling dice thing, the current mechanic. Instead of 10-20%, we'd look at, like, I don't know, 30-60. That way I make it much more like you don't know what's going to happen, but things are definitely going to get worse, sort of thing. But we'll see. Stage 3, illness. All businesses close, and the gates to the walled communities are sealed. No! The Casque Silencio ushers anyone on the streets back into their homes. These are really coordinated rats. Because remember, the Casque Silencio is literally suits of armor with rats inside of them. Those without shelter congregate in alleys where the rats grow bold. During this stage, whenever a character goes out in public, roll or choose an encounter from the Stage 3 encounters table. If exposed to Gnawing Plague, a character must succeed on Constitution saving throw to reduce the disease with the DC listed in the table entry for that encounter. Does it stay at that number, or does it go back to 10 once you have it? Interesting thoughts. A dead body lies in the character's path. Anyone who touches it gets a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or contracts the Gnawing Plague. Wretched Commoner tries to grapple the character, begging for any help. Anyone the Commoner touches must succeed on a DC 16 Constitution saving throw or contract the Gnawing Plague. 3 Casque Silencio gesture for the characters to get indoors immediately. They turn hostile if the character resists. Thanks. It keeps saying character, so I wonder if Richemulot was made for more of a, like, single solo play kind of game where it's like there's just one person and they're kind of like experiencing the city. That could be a really interesting game, I think, because as a party, you can kind of teamwork everything and be like on guard and prepped, and you like trust your teammates, or at least you think you can trust your teammates. But with this, one person could be, it could be very fun. It would get you very paranoid very quickly. I think it could be a very fun, tense session of you just trying to survive in the city. Several mangy giant rats attack. Anyone bitten by a giant rat must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or contract the Gnawing Plague. Okay. A swarm of rats shadows the character as they travel. If confronted, the swarm will attack. Anyone bitten by the rats must succeed on DC 14 saving throw or contract the plague. A young, well-heeled couple cavorts openly, oblivious to the quarantine. These were-rats don't reveal their true nature unless they must, and then only blend in with the swarm of rats. This is gonna be silly, but what does well-heeled mean? Well-heeled. It's an informal of being... Oh, just rich, yeah. The dead lie on the streets, neighbors shun one another, everyone hears the gnawing sounds in the dark, but no one searches out the source. Whenever a character goes out in public, roll or choose an encounter from the Stage 4 Encounters table. If exposed to the gnawing plague, a character must succeed on a Constitution saving throw to resist the disease with the DC listed in the table entry for that encounter. Desperate group of commoners tries to break through a sealed gate to escape quarantine. Anyone who tries to aid or deter them must succeed on a DC 16 Constitution saving throw or contract the plague. Okay, that's not great. 3 thieves attack someone who cries out for help. If a character intervenes, all 4 thieves reveal themselves to be were-rats and attack. No extra DC, though. A squad of Cask Silencio marches through the streets. If the Cask Silencio spot a character, they try to force the character into a home where the residents are all dead. Whoa, that's funny. Character spots several rats in an alley using trash to enact a miniature courtroom drama. Yeah, that sounds awesome. If a character interrupts or is critical of the rat's play, the rats will become a swarm of rats and attack. That's amazing. Character notices a giant rat about to throw alchemist's fire at an inhabited home. If they intervene, the rat will flee. Whether or not it escapes, the character's lodgings are soon the target of arson. Oh my gosh. Celebration takes place in a nearby house. 6 were-rats openly cavort in hybrid form, dancing and carousing with the corpses of the home's former owners. Ah, yes. So stage 4 is just, like, the worst stage. Well, I'm glad we're leaving this place. The plague needs to be, left, as it were. Ooh, Tepest. Mother Lorinda. Folk horror, fey bargains, nature worship, rural festivals, secret sacrifices. Bloodstained farm implements, dried crown of white camellias, straw doll. Oh my gosh, this sounds like stuff I don't really know much about. Huh. Brutality wears a welcoming face in Tepest, a truth embodied by the ancient hag Lorinda, who betrayed her coven in pursuit of a daughter to love. Aww, this is gonna be terrifying. Noteworthy features. Those familiar with Tepest know the following. Okay, caves and a bunch of stuff. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Mother's Minders, good to know. What do you love? How do you feel? What have you lost? Okay. So what do you love about the land? What do you feel about the mother who's like in control of everything? And what have you lost to the Tithe? The Tithe, I assume, is just awful. Let's just real quick Tithe. No, of course it wouldn't be. To fertility celebration called the Tithe, which occurs once each season. Good to know. Forested valley, rugged mountains, dramatic cliffs, mysterious vales. Very cool. Rocky soil, unpredictable weather. It's nice, nice. Cool, cool, cool. Victal. The Gurgle. I want to know about the Gurgle. Those who venture into the wilds might see a massive shape silently lumbering through Tepest woods. The Gurgle, a structure of thorns, wicker, and giant's bones, appears as a misshapen, tower-like nest balanced on 3 skeletal dragon legs. Lorinda and her daughter oh no, I can't pronounce that. I don't even know where to start with that. Lower? Lower? Lowers? Lowers? Did you Lowers? I got no idea. Maybe Google. Nope, nope. I was looking for. I mean, Sersha is good, so maybe it's Lursha. I'm gonna guess it's Lursha. We're gonna go with Lursha until we're proven absolutely wrong, which we will be, but you know, it's good. Lorinda and her daughter Lursha dwell inside this mobile fortress, which holds Lorinda's kitchen laboratory, Lursha's nursery oubliette, and the old cauldron, a plugged pot where Lorinda's coven sisters languish. Not great. Gurgle ranges across Tepest at Lorinda's will and might appear anywhere. The villagers of Victal know the Gurgle serves their god in some way, but sighting it portends bad luck. Cool. Then the Lost Court. This serene valley lies in the shadow of Mount Arak. By day, its woods throng with fat, happy animals. By night, the ground turns to mud and brambles from which transform victims of deadly magic rise. A sanctuary in the terrible night beckons on the shores of Lake Lenore. Sturdy walls and warm hearth of the Nobody's Inn. The Fae and their servants avoid the inn and its skeletal innkeeper, Briona, at all costs. Nice! I want to learn more about Briona. Do they at all talk about Briona? Because it would be nice to learn about... Nope, nope, that's all you get! You get one piece of information on the creepy inn, but no, you don't get told anything about it. Oh, creators, how could you? Lorinda, Lovida, and Letitia, the Mindfisk sisters, were gifted from the fairies to their lonely mother. Kind, honest woman who wanted daughters to cherish. It's gonna end super poorly. Their brutish father and brothers resented the girls, whose sufferings grew worse after their mother died. Desiring a better life, the sisters began preying upon travelers who passed by their secluded home. They would murder wealthy strangers, steal valuables, and dispose of the bodies in their family's stew pot. The sisters' wickedness was revealed, and when they squabbled over a stranger, they all fancied and ultimately murdered the traveler. When the rest of the family discovered their wicked deeds, terrible deeds, The sisters killed their father and brothers. As their murder spree unfolded, the mists rose. When they cleared unfamiliar mountains in a land called Tepest surrounding the sisters' simple valley home, and their true nature as vicious hags manifested. Pretty basic. Not to be like too. It just doesn't. Hey, Belfunga, not much. How are you doing? It's I don't know. It's twisted, but it's not. I wouldn't. How to put this? It again. It feels like we're told what the domains of dread are, and we're told that it's basically like this. You're all right. Very cool. Glad to hear it, Belfunga. We're told the domains of dread are this like demi-plane of like all the bad stuff, and people get picked up and taken here. But like I don't know. I really got into the idea that like you make a pact for this to happen, like from the Strahd stuff. And I guess I'm just very off on that because this seems more like they're just trying to come up with a bunch of like fairy tale stuff for you to kind of be locked into, which I guess is fine. Like, you gotta do what you gotta do. Um, let's see. From the strange fae of Tepest, the three green hags learned magic they used to prey upon the humans of the nearby valleys. Over generations, they became known as fickle sages and weavers of dooms and miracles. Strangers sought them out, begging for bountiful crops, potent medicines, or the children that fate denied them. The hags sowed blessings and despair in equal measure. Numerous hexblood children originated from the hag's cauldron. Oh, that's interesting. Or I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. In time, the hag Lorinda asked her sisters to help create a child of their own. Are hexblood children not children? Wild. But Levita and Letitia refused, loathing the idea of sharing their magic and secrets. Oh. In secret, Lorinda assembled a creature of animal parts, brambles, and foul magic, and then with its help she ambushed her sisters and trapped them inside of their own magical cauldron. Soon after, her creation fell apart, and she has used magic stolen from her imprisoned sisters ever since to create flawed, hungry beings she calls children. See Lorinda's children below. She manipulates the people of Tepest to provide excellent meals for her daughter. See, this is why, being a hag is a bit of a oh-no sometimes. Karen is a green hag of extreme age. In her true form, she carries her darling family. Three grim dolls she calls Levita, Letitia, and Lursha. When dealing with the residents of Victal, she takes on her benevolent, illusory guise as Mother. Lorinda wears the guise of Mother to manipulate the people of Victal. In this illusory form, she appears as a matronly figure wearing a cloak of moth wings and bearing a branch burning with torches. This is not... I don't think I've got the right mental picture, because this is still scary to me, and not someone I would be like, ah yes, Mother, we must trust Mother. Using her control of the land as Tepest's Dark Lord, she brings bounty to fields and flocks, or curses farms with famine and aberrant livestock. You know, just 'cause. Those in her service rarely produce offspring, and so petition her for hexblood children. Interesting. All Mother asks of her followers in return for her blessing is that they love her best, remain watchful for those of weak faith, and offer seasonal sacrifices. Ah, I love how creepy that is. That's awful. Awful. I don't want to be here. I want to leave. This is not the kind of place I want to be at. And I feel like it's one of those places where when you run into the woods, it's like everything is trying to grab and gnaw at you because the land itself doesn't want you to leave. I'm feeling that out of this lady. I don't want to be here. I want to go and run. Mother's Minders. The servants of Mother prove their faith through song, rustic art, and small sacrifices. The most devout, called Mother's Minders, each undertake a ritual in which they pluck out their left eye, giving its sight to Mother. No! Lorinda can see through her followers' empty eye sockets as though they were hag eyes. Oh, okay. Detailed in the monster manual. Let's check those out real quick. H hags. Hag eye. Hag eye is usually entrusted to a minion. Take an action to see what the hag eye sees in a coven. Okay, so it's only while in the coven, but that's because she's got her sisters locked up inside that cage thing. Hag has AC 10, 1 hit point, dark vision. If it's destroyed, each member takes 3d10 psychic damage. Ouch. Only one eye at a time, except definitely not with her. Okay, very cool. Additionally, she can teleport at will from the gurgle to an unoccupied space adjacent to any Mother's Minder. On the rare times she does, she appears to physically crawl out of her follower's empty eye socket. Yes, that's not fun. That's like out of this. So like first the fingers just splot out, and then like, oh my gosh, great. Oh. Wonderful. People give up their eyes for this woman so that this can happen to them. Their left eye always, so it's this one actually. Oh my gosh. Lorinda's sisters are imprisoned in a fat cauldron. Oh, you could have a super cool thing where you could have a guy who's like on the party's side, totally an ally, and he's got an eye patch the whole time, and then like, you know, during the betrayal moment, just like people sacrifice bigger things than eyes throughout history. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't change that it's one of those things. I mean, people have sacrificed children, family members, like their own lives, huge stuff. But it's still 9 times out of 10, if someone says, "Give me your eyeball," it's usually not a great starter. Brain torn out. I mean, even brain torn out, as your name suggests, some people have their brains torn out. But definitely, yeah, definitely bigger things. But it doesn't change that it's like, oh man, don't want to do this. Let's see. Levita and Letitia. Lorinda's sisters are imprisoned in a fat cauldron that serves as the engine for their animated home, the Gurgle. Lorinda can use her sister's prison to cast any of the spells shared by a hag coven. If the cauldron is unsealed, Levita and Letitia will seek swift vengeance against their sister. Yeah, that makes sense. Lorinda's children. Lorinda pushes the limits of her foul magic to turn sticks and carcasses into her own children. She loves these monstrous beings, naming them all Lursha and treating them as if they were the same individual. These creatures rarely live for more than a few weeks, except when a villager is sacrificed to Mother during the Tithe. Which extends Lursha's life by a few weeks. Lorinda dotes on her children, rarely letting them leave the Gurgle and wreaking horrible vengeance on any who harm them. Brain Torn Out says, I mean, cavemen used to scrape living people's scalps off and expose their brains as surgery. Yeah. It sucks. It's like, if you have to, yeah, I can see it, but it doesn't change that in general. I think in general the answer is let's try to not do things like that. But yeah, it's wild that cavemen. It was sometimes successful, right? Brain Torn Out. Like there are people who, I think there was a body that was found. You know, died obviously eventually, but he had like 2 or 3 of those, right, in his scalp. Like he had evidence of having surgery multiple times in his life, and he apparently like survived and kept going like each time, or something like that. Is that correct, or because I think that, but anyway, Levita and Letitia. Lorinda's sisters are okay. We did that. We went over the children. So they're really suggesting that the hex blood are just made out of sticks, I guess, which I am intrigued by. I thought the race of it's in lineages, hex bloods. After making a deal with a hag. Oh, okay. X was... Oh, so influenced them. I am feeling that perhaps it was done one way. It's written one way in the books, and then to make Hexbloods a little more open, they expanded what a Hexblood could be. Yeah, individuals who have been infused with eldritch magic, fey energy, or mysterious witchcraft, so a sorcerer, basically. Some who enter into bargains with hags gain their people's wishes, but find themselves transformed. Changes evidence of hags' influence. Yeah, okay. So that's interesting to me that they, over here, have a pretty specific way that Hexblood are treated and talked about, and then they have a whole different thing on that. Brain Turnout is saying... it's called trepanning, yeah, and many skulls showed signs of healings. Over 15% of the skulls from the Neolithic era were found in such a state. Wow, that's wild. 15%. That's do we have that many brain surgeries nowadays? 15% of the population. And it says, what you looking up, by the way? This is Van Richten's guide to Ravenloft, and then I'm just, whenever something intrigues me, I just kind of move off to the next thing. So that's why I jumped over really quickly to Hexbloods, which are the new race from Van Richten's guide, because as they talk about Mother Lorinda's family, they keep referencing Hexbloods, which... It's clear from this that Hexbloods, according to Mother Lorinda, is like a bunch of sticks and mud that she's infused to kind of be a person. But in the Hexblood of the book, it's clearly its own like race. It's a person who has Eldritch Fey magic infused into them. So it's like an interesting difference that happens. Anyway. So yeah, Lorinda's torment. Lorinda endures various miseries, the following chief among them. Oh, there are way too many playable races nowadays. Yeah, yes and no. Like, it's wild, playable races. Like, Brain Tornado. I know what you mean. For my games, I've half done away with them, in that I just say, like, look, just tell me what you look like, tell me what that race is called, and we'll work it into the campaign somehow. And you can figure out what you want from bonuses and stuff like that from, like, pre-approved stuff from, the D&D list. But I think the big thing is D&D Beyond, is that D&D is very player-focused. And so every book is about how do we get a new thing that the players will say, I want this, and then buy the book. Because at the end of the day, if it were a DM-focused like series of books and things, it would just be stuff like, here's like, some new adventures that you could try out, here's some new NPCs that we think might be interesting for a campaign. The more you make it about the DM, the more I think the books would be less rules-focused and more just storytelling, and even, like, very basic rules, just, like, simple stuff, because ultimately all 50 choices, all the different choices of being, like, a playable race and a playable character, that's just to get the player intrigued and be like, I'm so-and-so, and I'm playing this archetype, or, I'm going against archetype, or I'm being nuanced, or whatever, but their big thing is focusing on their thing. Let's see. I haven't played D&D in a while. It got annoyed. Yeah, got annoyed with 5e. That's fair. Systems currently playing are human only, which makes it easier. It definitely can make it a lot easier having a human only campaign. I personally don't mind as much the like any race goes sort of thing, but I'm also very um, things just happen in my campaign. You know, I just kind of I recently took a whole bunch of charts from about 5 or 6 different game systems and just took the charts and combined them all into a mega chart, and now I just roll that for whatever's happening in the game. And so it's like, all right, you're fighting a dude who is on fire and wants to like go and take a nap. You've interrupted his rest. He's screaming like "Leave me alone" and running off. And you know, it makes the game kind of fun and interesting in certain ways and aspects, while trying to keep this forward momentum of kind of keeping everybody having their own thing, but also moving the campaign forward at a good pace. But yeah, it gets wild. Human only is definitely a good enough way to go, I would say. Just because if you're just trying to like, you know, it can be too much, all these extra bits and stuff. Um, but yeah, so let's see. Lorinda desires to have a family, but her inherently controlling, murderous nature leads her to destroy whatever she creates. She constantly doubts the adoration she receives from her daughters and worshippers. She requires constant proof of their love. Mm-hmm. Lorinda can create hexblood children for others, but any being she fashions for herself is monstrous, ravenous, and short-lived. Oh, that's terrifying. Lorinda fears that her sisters will one day escape their captivity and take revenge on her. I mean, that's pretty likely, Lorinda. You gotta know that that's gonna happen. Let's see. The systems don't exactly deal with races, to be honest. I mostly play City of Mist, and I'm in the process of building your own system. Oh, okay. I don't know City of Mist, but that sounds pretty cool. I'm guessing we're talking slight gothic horror, lots of what's going on. Because the mist, you know, like forgetfulness and people like coming in and out of lives, not really things just move forward, but there's no like consistency. Well, I'm sure there's consistency because you know it's a D&D game, but the mist suggests it's like a present ever present fog just off the name. And of course, I could be completely wrong. Um, and dude, building your own system, like, good on you. Like, uh, I hope it goes every way that you want it to. It can be so hard to build a system, but like I think ultimately it can be very rewarding to be able to sit there and be like, this is what my thing is, and we're moving forward and trying to be, um, I, you know, just trying to get like the right idea of what you feel would be a lot of fun. Oh, Mythos Power Detective Noir, very cool. Um, Nice, 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 nice. So Mythos is in Cthulhu Mythos, is that right? And then Detective Noir. So um, yeah, Detective. It has some of the elements that I was talking about then, because as Detective Noir, you know, each case is like separate, and it's just kind of like as someone comes into your life and then they go out of it, sort of deal. But still very, very cool. Role-playing Lorinda. Lorinda loves the trappings of motherhood and is off-puttingly maternal towards all those she encounters. She's quick to dote on others, calling them unsettling pet names like Lostling, Caterpillar, or Sweetskin. Sweetskin is the worst. Definitely want to leave upon her calling me Sweetskin. She insists that others call her some variation of mother. Lorinda relishes the worship of Victal's people, but treats them as livestock, guarding them fiercely only to slaughter them as she wills. In her mother guise, she maintains an air of benevolence, claiming to ask for little despite her followers' supposed sloth and ingratitude. Hmm. She will do anything to prevent the villagers from learning of her true nature. So it's the new Resident Evil game, Resident Evil Village, right? Mother Miranda. Uh, Mother Lorinda, Miranda. I wonder how close these two are. um, Personality trait. I'm the greatest parent in the world. I just need children worthy of my love. Oh no. Ideal. Good children get rewards. Bad children get punished. Oh no. Bond, my sweet LaRoche is my world. Oh no. Blah, the children can't know what I was, what I am. Ah, man. Oh, open and honest trust is the building blocks of communication. Adventures in Tepest. The horror of Tepest rises from its mysterious wilderness and the seemingly idyllic community of Victal. Here, dread lies in contrasts. Tree branches grasp like claws. Ah, I was right! While every cottage exudes a warm glow. Smiles come readily but last too long. Wildflowers grow from the carcasses of mutated lambs. No! Scary. Oh, brain torn out. Nope. In City of Mist, the characters draw powers from real-life mythoses. Oh, really cool. One character may have the power of the Tower of Babylon. Another will have the powers of the Huntsman from Red Riding Hood, and another could take the pop culture idea of a zombie and twist it into a barely alive cyborg powered by electronics and barely controllable magic cores. That's really cool and really wild. That sounds like a lot of fun. Is that I'm guessing that's a more story-centric game than the class system of D&D. Like I'm guessing it's more like you don't have 7 traits to follow. It's you say this is the mythos that I am following, right? See, in one of your games, a player even took the concept of Uncle Sam, took him to the extreme, and turned him into a smooth-talking, gun-heavy cult leader. Yeah. That's wild. So I'm guessing it's more you come up with the concept and then try to build from your stats out of that. Is that right? Because in D&D is obviously the class system where it's like if you want to do the thing, you kind of have to either make your own class slash subclass or do what the or pick one from Wizard's thing. But this sounds like you don't have it's the Wild West kind of where you're just like this is the mythos I want to do. I want to be the like Russian the Russian KGB kind of like idea. As I said, it's a detective noir. It's based on the Apocalypse World system. Oh, Apocalypse World system. Dungeon Dungeon World, right? Dungeon World and Monster of the Week. I think those are Apocalypse system, right? Um, Let me check real quick. Oh no, that's the which is the Apocalypse system? Because yeah, powered by the Apocalypse. Um, yeah, Dungeon World. So City of Mist. It's not in here for some reason. But that's fine. City of Mist. Oh my gosh, over 250 pages for building uh, your powers. That's sweet. That's amazing. City of Mist sounds wild. But it is a 2d6 system, yeah. So you roll 2d6, add your bonuses, and then kind of good. Very cool. Lots of detail. Is there a way I can see the picture a bit bigger? Tlaloc, the Aztec rain god, Scarlet Little Red Riding Hood. Very cool. This is pretty wild. This is cool. Don Quixote reporter. Nice. Very cool. I like Baby New Year Getaway Trident. Egyptian goddess. Guessing that's supposed to be fast. See? Very cool. Very cool. Alright, back to adventures. Hey, Opaque Snake, how you doing? Adventures in Tepest. The horror is wildflowers grow from the carcasses of mutated limbs. The mist deposit visitors to Tepest near Victal, whose folk encourage strangers to partake in the village's hospitality. Will characters accept a welcome respite, or will they be suspicious of their hosts? Do they ask about Mother? If they discover the horror of the Tithe, do the characters view the villagers as victims or monsters? The following section, Victal and the Tithe, will explore how to draw characters into the village's eerie traditions. That style of art is all throughout the book. It heavily draws from the image comic style of dark fantasy. Very cool, bring torn out. So for anybody interested, since D&D is just what I play, because it's the first system that I played, but honestly, any and all RPGs. I just use D&D as my like catch-all term for all RPGs. City of Mist sounds really interesting. It looked like it's currently $30 instead of 35, and there's like you can get like a little starter set and a soundtrack. Ooh, they come with a soundtrack. I love soundtracks. Soundtracks are some of my favorite. And you'd be saving another $13. So if you're anybody who is interested in different systems and stuff like that, I don't know anything about City of Mist, obviously, but like, hey, it's currently a little bit, it's a little bit off. Looks like they have, it's the Game Together sale ending in 9 days. Totally cool. Check it out. It looks like it's a pretty fun game, and you can just grab, like a starter set, player's book, and a couple things. Very cool. Oh, it's the starter box, so it'll have book and, let's see, booklet for players, booklet for the MC, which is probably the DM in this case. 5 pre-generated character folios. You'll lose those in a week, but obviously it's still cool. You'll either lose them or they'll be forever in your box because you don't want to destroy them. 20 tracking cards, a crew card, custom City of Mist dice. Ooh, Mist dice! Mist dice! Dice are good. We must buy all the dice. 7 location maps. I like the maps. This is all for $30? That's sweet. I like that deal, personally. And 41 illustrated character tokens. I'm not gonna tell anyone, like, you know, that whether their views, you know, like if you think it's worth it or not. But like for me, this is all within the worth it style. That's like at 7 maps was probably enough for me to be like, what? I get 7 maps for $30? I'm okay with that. I know that's probably too much for some people, but I've seen maps that are like, here's a map for 50, and I'm like, not wanting that. Yeah, very cool. I might have to, it's not that much. I might have some extra cash to throw that way later. Plus I can talk about, it has a downloads. And it comes with the starter set PDF. I could definitely read through some City of Mist stuff and talk about it later, but very cool. Oh, Brain Torn Out says immediately upon release, they bought the special edition with a hardcover book, player rulebook, softcover mini book, character posters, set of dice, and a few other goodies. Very cool, very cool. It sounds similar to the starter box that I just read through, except since you got the you got the release special edition, that's probably got you some of the like a little bit better looking / harder stuff like the hardback and things like that. Still, super cool, super awesome, love it. I'm gonna keep that link here for a bit. I've got 9 days to figure out if I've got the cash to burn through for this. Love things like that. Love it. Let's see. Beyond Victal, the inescapable hostility of the natural world holds sway. Harsh weather casts a pall over the land, and predators and dangerous plant creatures haunt the forest. Any kind of fey creature might dwell in the domain, or beneath it in the realms of Arak. Even whimsical fey take on a malicious tinge in Tepest, whether as thieves, kidnappers, deal-makers, or collectors of eerie trophies. Like the land itself, the fey have strange powers, and villagers pushed to desperation seek them out in the hopes of bargaining for what fate has denied. Very cool. When planning adventures in this domain, consider the plots of the Tepest Adventures table. Toxic vision-inducing fungi. Oh shit, it's mycelids. Taint the ruined village of Brigdarrow. Recently, homesteaders outside of Victal discovered the fungus on their properties and claim it's being spread by strange fungus-covered bipeds. A hermit who once lived in the abandoned fortress on Cass Island hires the party to retrieve an heirloom she left behind, but she warns that Avank, a dangerous lake monster, swims nearby. Huh. That's gonna be hard. Shepard's youngest child went missing after a sinkhole opened in a nearby pasture, revealing a glowing cavern that leads into the tunnels of Ark. The parish family fled Victal in fear of Mother. They seek help revealing her malice to their former neighbors before she finds them. Oh, okay. Mother's minders nail wicker dolls over the doors of a dozen houses in Victal. Soon after, both the dolls and the inhabitants of those houses vanish. Oh. Okay. Druid seeks aid in reclaiming their people's holy site from an ancient evil treant called Blightroot. The Druid doesn't mention that the surrounding forests are a clonal colony of the villainous plant. Clonal? What's a clonal colony? A clonal colony, or genet, is a group of genetically identical individuals, such as plants, fungi, or bacteria, that have grown in a given location, all originating vegetatively, not sexually, from a single ancestor. In plants, an individual in such a population is referred to as a remet. In fungi, individuals typically refers to the visible fruiting bodies of the mushrooms that develop from a common mycelium, which, although spread over a large area, is otherwise hidden in the soil. Clonal colonies are common in many plant species. Although many plants reproduce sexually through the production of seed, reproduction occurs by underground stolons or rhizomes in some plants. Above ground, these plants most often appear to be distinct individuals, but underground they remain interconnected and are all clones of the same plant. However, it is not always easy to recognize the clonal colony, especially if it spreads underground and is also sexually reproducing. Huh. So... a druid wants to take the holy site from Blightroot. Doesn't mention that the surrounding forests are a clonal colony of the villainous plant. So if they're all identical, that would mean they're all treants in disguise. Or like baby treants, so they're not yet treants, but like... and they're all from the same, like, original super plant. So you could make the holy site the site of the dead, like, ancient treant. And Blightroot is, like, one who's like, I don't care about this, I'm gonna fight. And then you could, okay, so I like the idea that Blightroot being evil, and also, more important than evil, like, the guy who's like, I'm going to actually do something about this, watches them kill watch the druid and his people like destroy the original treant, and creates the holy site in the corpse basically. And he gets like angry and is like, I'm gonna like destroy these people, all that kind of stuff. And so he goes around and causes a bunch of trouble, killing people. And let's just say he is straight up evil, just to make things easier. I like the idea of, as the party tries to fight this guy, they keep getting like little things that are like somebody like smacks the as they like shoot at him, a tree like suddenly sways in the way, or like as he attacks, everything's at like disadvantage because the trees are trying to stop the fighting, but they're not willing to like do anything other than like be like, I'm a tree and I sway left and I do a little thing. And then when the party gets really annoyed and just sets fire to a tree, the entire colony bursts into tree, and so the party's like, no, what have we done? A grieving villager begs the characters to take their deceased loved one to the cauldron, a pool said to restore life to a corpse bathed in its waters. The villager says nothing of the terrible price the pool's magic exacts. It's a shame they don't tell us what the terrible price is, because then I'm just sitting there going like, they wake up but evil, just like Animal Graveyard, the Pet Cemetery book. Or maybe it was Pet Cemetery, the Animal Graveyard. It's Stephen King. I think it's called Pet Cemetery. But yeah. Two young lovers go missing from Victal. One is found days later, unable to remember anything, aged 50 years, and desperate for help to find their partner. Character's reflection on the water warns of impending doom. The image insists they find the seer's glass, which can reveal the past and future. That would be hilarious. My first thought is to send that to the player who's the most, like, problematic. Get a real, like, Cartman from South Park situation going on, where he's just looking at himself in the pool, and he's like, dude, you need to go do this! And he's like, stop it! And they just start arguing over and over again. That'd be hilarious. Strange old woman claims to have lost her child and begs the characters for help. Thus disguised, Lorinda hopes to have the party track down her runaway, I've already forgotten how to say that. Lursha? Lursha. Aww. It's a happy dwarf. It's a happy dwarf. Don't look back, dwarf. Never look behind you. Victal and the Tithe. Those who come to Tepest inevitably arrive near the domain's lone surviving settlement. There, they find welcoming people, warm food and beds, an unsettling sense that the daily life and traditions of the villagers conceal horrible secrets. What starts as glimpses of strange behaviors or rustic decorations culminates in learning the village's secrets firsthand during the seasonal tide. This section explores the village of Victal and provides guidance on how the tithe unfolds. This is gonna be wild. The rustic community of Victal consists of a few dozen simple cottages surrounding a market square, meeting hall, and an inn. Farms and fishing shacks cluster around the village, shying away from the shadow of the surrounding woods and mountains. Those who visit Victal soon meet Mothers Faithful, who appear at first to practice a local, naturalistic faith, who appear. But as characters explore, they'll notice especially pious individuals with missing eyes called Mother's Minders, and other locals engaging in unsettling behavior. The villagers are curious about strangers, and eventually someone invites the outsiders to the Fisher's Rest for a free meal and to share their stories. The villagers encourage new arrivals to become part of the community, since that's what Mother teaches them to do, and to broaden the pool of sacrifice fodder for the next tithe. I know it's a dash, and you're supposed to consider it as like two separate ideas, where the whole point is it's hidden, but I would love to have the person who ends up being with the party be the guy with like 7 charisma, and he's like, Mother teaches us to do it in order to broaden the pool of sacrifice fodder for the next tithe. I just have him go, what was that? And he's like, oh, I said the quiet part loud, didn't I? When the characters visit Victal, roll or choose options from the Sights in Victal table to set the tone of the villagers' strangeness. Sights in Victal. Locals weave flowers into crowns and sew cuts of meat into cloaks, creating traditional garb for an upcoming festival. The meat in cloaks part is something I've never heard of. Most of the children in town are hexbloods, and the evasive locals refuse to say why. The villagers harvest wings and chrysalises from caged moths, which are powdered and used to make shift spice, a pervasive ingredient in local dishes. Ugh. A group of young people dramatically sob at the window of an old woman who tosses horned wicker dolls to those who sob loudest. Okay. Probably teaching the children how to like properly worship Mother Lorinda. A local fisher teaches knife-wielding youngsters how to debone live eels. Eels? I guess they do, yeah. And create festive elver crowns, a grim local decoration. What's an elver crown? I assume it's a crown made of eels, but why elver fishing? What's an elver? Oh, that's not helpful. Let's drop crowns and let's find out what an elver is. Huh. Really small creatures. So I'm guessing you debone the eel, because an eel is big, right? I've never seen one, but I always assumed they were like big, thick. Yeah, look at that giant eel. So, huh. Very cool. So I'm guessing you debone the eel, and then use the bones and put the elvers on it to make a crown? Maybe. I just have trouble seeing using the eel's like flesh to do it. But that's very interesting. With adult approval, youngsters affix horn-like sticks to a terrified animal's head. Oh, that's not great. A lovingly carved door or mural depicts a woman's face made of moth wings watching over an explicitly detailed scene of butchery or gore. Or surgery, sorry, not gore. Huh. Villagers sing and dance in a circle around someone undergoing a ritual to have their left eye removed. This is wild. The Tithe. The Tithe Festival takes place in Victal 4 times each year, during the equinox and solstice. During this day-long celebration, Mother's followers revel in the bounty of nature and new life. The villagers spend weeks in preparation for the celebration, and villagers eagerly explain that the tithe is a commemoration of nature's abundance, during which a measure of the town's bounty is returned to Mother. In truth, the festival is meant to prepare one of the villagers for slaughter at the hands of Lorinda's child, the latest Larsha. Tithe celebration. Festivities start early in the morning when the town's elders lead everyone in a parade to a prepared festival ground in a field to outside town. The assembled villagers spend the day partaking in contests, feasting, dancing, and song. Celebratory events in the day include traditional entertainment and competitions, Everyone is encouraged to participate and live life to its fullest. Events end with contest victors receiving small tokens as rewards, and whoever wins the most before dusk is named Mother's Favorite. These events involve simple challenges and ability checks, though elaborate events might run as chases, see the Dungeon Master's Guide, or combat with weapons customized to deal low or no damage. Roll for or choose 2 or 3 activities from the Tithe events table to determine what events the characters might participate in during the Tithe. There are 6 Tithe events. One is Crooked Joust. Use stilts strapped to your arms and legs to topple one another. That's hilarious. 5-legged sheep figurine. The Poery Chase is pursuers dress as wicked fairies, donning tattered red cloaks and using sharp darts in a game of tag. Red wooden ring. That's funny. Lost siblings. Blindfolded participants identify other players by touching their hair. The sheaf of black wheat. Gossamer glutton. Whoever eats the most live moths wins. Glass butterfly wing. Hungry sister. A dozen players with a rope tied around them try to stop someone from getting past them and stealing a pear from a bowl. A dried length of pear skin. Never naughty. Participants take turns flattering 3 elderly villagers who decide who wins and who gets paddled. Oh my gosh. Token is a reed switch, that's hilarious. Mother's Blessing. At dusk, the town's leaders name Mother's Favorite and grant them a crown of white camellias prior to an hours-long communal feast. Then, near midnight, celebrants move farther into the fields to receive Mother's Blessing. At midnight, amid ceremony and solemnity, Mother appears to her worshippers. Mother's Favorite is instructed to carry a bowl of food and gifts to Mother. As they do, the latest Lurcha, viewed by the villagers as a manifestation of nature's hunger, appears and attacks. All assembled expect Lurcha to slaughter the victim, spilling their blood and bringing fertility to the fields for another season, and gaining a few extra weeks of life before inevitably decaying like all of Mother's prior children. As Lurcha drags away her meal, Mother blesses her faithful and vanishes. The villagers merrily return to their homes, having completed the tithe for another season. Particulars of how this ritual plays out are up to you, but it always culminates in Lurcha's attack. Whether a character is chosen as Mother's Favorite or the party tries to defend the victim, roll or choose an option from the Lorinda's Daughter table to determine what horror arrives at the ritual's climax. Creatures on the table marked with an asterisk are detailed in Chapter 5. Wild. Just taking a moment. Lurcha's forms can be a giant upright walking ram, in which case give her a minotaur. Oh my gosh, you can go all the way up to 16. Be a goristro. This is giant shrieking bipedal sheep. This is unfair to do to people. Humanoid made of wicker. Shambling mound. It's too good to make the joke. If you get Shambling Mound, go ahead and have it attack them, giant wicker man, and then in the background play Nicolas Cage screaming about the bees. Bees! Zombie Plot, that's a new one. Oh, I remember Zombie Plot now. That's funny. It's awful, too. Dozens of stitched together corpses. Shivering hairless rabbit bear is the abominable yeti. Not a normal yeti, the abominable one. Because there is a difference. Bipedal wolf elk, Lou Garou. And a giant shrieking bipedal chief. Very nice. It's time to leave, though. Find ourselves in Valachan, domain of the hunt. And that is our last. This is our last domain of dread. Before the one paragraph ones, the other domains, these that are just kind of like. And a domains of dread. Miscarry the creatures to mysterious domain. Roll on the domains of dread. Very cool. DM's design. Zeregia, that's here, right? That's this one? Yeah. I should take that chart and add it to my chart pile, but put it as part of like a percentage chance thing. Maybe, I like Ravenloft a lot, but I also don't. In my campaigns, Ravenloft is good. Like it makes a ton of sense for it to be there, but I kind of want to get people stuck there. There's got to be a way out, and this is very much a. I think the idea they're going for is that there's kind of no way out of it. But I can make up a way out. Maybe I'll make it a Dead by Daylight hatch. Lols. Ooh. Okay. So, Valachan, Dark Lord is Chakuna? Known for gothic horror and slasher horror, diabolical traps, hostile wilderness survival games. As the mist talismans are displacer beast skin, poisonous flower blossoms, rusty footprints. Be stabbed by the foot. In the jungles of Valachan, survivors must guard their hearts lest something monstrous eat them. For some, that risk is worth the reward of the unusual plants and magical this land is home to. Fiercely protected by its Dark Lord, the devious and immortal hunter roams the jungles hunting dangerous beasts, and when she grows dissatisfied with simpler prey, she draws sapient quarry into a fatal contest. Not great. Land of dense forests, dense rainforests, sandy shores, and forest-covered mountains. And you avoid or survive participating in the Trial of Hearts? Why aren't you a werepanther? What secret of the land do you know better than anyone else? Very cool. That reminds me, I wanted to see island they were talking about back in Tepest, so there it is, Cass Island. Nobody's in. Okay. See what's going on. Okay, cool. Alright. Yairu Bamba River. Xelo Tara Lodge. Shwara. Huh. Very interesting. I want to hear about Ocello. Takuna's home village appears prosperous and relaxed. People are friendly to traders and visitors. Nothing strange occurs during the day. At night, hunters shift into the forms of panthers and ocelots, forming packs that roam deep into the jungle and return with meat after assisting Chikuna on her hunts. In the aftermath, an underlying disquiet permeates the entire village. The spiritual struggle torments the community. People are torn between wanting to live in peace and obeying Chikuna. Not great. The Ocello people occasionally adopt wayward outsiders, granting them protection from the trial of hearts. Once adopted by the village, individuals must prove themselves by initiating ceremonies focused around surviving in the forest for a week with. Ooh. Terra Lodge. Seat of power. Thatched buildings strung together. Suspended above overgrown ruins. Quantum Mouse wants to know what module is this? This is Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. It's less a module and more a campaign setting. And it goes over all of the domains of dread, starting with Barovia, which is from the Curse of Strahd module. I'll show you the picture. The Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, cover art. There you go. It's got all the things happening in it. And yeah, it's more about telling you about the potential for other domains of dread, because Ravenloft is a campaign setting in which Barovia is just a part, and so Strahd von Zarovich is he made a deal with the Dark Powers, I believe it was, and then he's like constantly tortured by them at all times, and then the rest of these are just, as far as I can tell, they're almost never making a deal with the Dark Powers. They're just people who are awful, and the Dark Powers were like, this guy's the worst, and then they just pick him up out of the thing. Each one is supposed to be themed towards a different kind of like idea of horror, and also give you a different like thing that's kind of like the central agonizing problem. So to give you an idea, do like Darkon, Borka, Richemulot, and Kalikiri? Yeah, Kalikiri. So Darkon is its lord left, maybe. So no one's really sure what's going on. But its lord basically left and is gone, and so the mists are overtaking all of the lands, and everyone is freaking out and panicking because they don't want to die. And that's what the mists are doing, is like slowly encroaching and possibly killing people. And so that's making people just desperately worried. Borka has two lords in it, one ruling from the west at the Boritsia estate, and one ruling in the east at the Delisnia estate. And basically they are just kind of these two people with like kind of contrasting ways of being people. So like Ivana is smart, she's very good with plants and alchemy, and she's a very outdoors person because she's very good at charisma and talking to people and being with others, and so she is also supposed to be like a super genius, and she kind of knows how you're going to react to any situation, and so creates her persona off of kind of like knowing what you're going to say next. And then Ivan Delisnia is terrifying, as can be seen. He is a shut-in with an extreme focus on engineering. So there are these like opposite ideas of like the natural and the artifice world, and like being out and open and being like focused and introverted and stuck in. So very, very different people, but they're like both rulers of this land, and they kind of like mess with each other a little. And then there's Richemulot, which has this woman, Jacqueline Rainier. She believes that she's like better than everybody else, that She's the ruler, and it's her like she's got this responsibility which she does not take care of her people at all. She releases plagues on her people because she's just awful. She's just awful. Um, that's basically Pokeminch. I don't know. I do not know Pokeminch, but sounds cool. And then Kalikiri is a land where loyalty is the big thing. And so Ramya Vasavadan is the Dark Lord, and she's been stolen. Oh, Earthbound's secondary antagonist. Very cool, yeah. So Ramya has been betrayed. She's the Dark Lord, and she's been betrayed by her brother and sister, something like 2 or 3 times, to the point that they like actually killed her, and then she was brought back as a Death Knight. And so she is super about loyalty, and she will kill anyone who's not quote loyal enough, and loyal enough is basically not a hardcore loyalist. Like if you're not a hardcore loyalist, she's basically gonna get you killed. And then her brother and sister, meanwhile, are constantly trying to tell people like she's unreasonable and all that stuff. But the only reason that Ramya is like this is because they literally have betrayed her like over and over and over again. They're just awful, kind of like supremely awful people. One of them just wants to rule over everything because he just feels that he deserves it, and the other has a secret cache of knowledge underneath the capital city, and she's just like wants that all of that to herself and wants basically everybody out of the picture, and hates her sister only because her sister is better as a leader than she is. And so right now we're in Valachan, which is the land of the land of a scary panther woman who's going to murder you. That was it. I think it's a scary panther woman who's going to murder you. So it's suspended. Chikuna's home holds only the bare necessities, an armory, an infirmary, and a stable of displacer beasts. Chikuna's displacer beast hunting partner, Yana, remains by her side here. Those who listen closely while at Pantera Lodge hear muttering in the night. These whispers issue from the head of Uruk von Kharkov, Valachan's disposed former Dark Lord, who spews curses and secrets from a chamber hidden at the lodge's heart. So this is an interesting place in that it had a Dark Lord, and then someone else took it over. Oh my god, that would be amazing. The Panera Lodge, yes, Quantum Mouse, that's a good one. Pantera Lodge is Panera Lodge. The lady Chikuna just sits around, walking around, being like, I think there's a picture of her down here. Yeah, this is her. So she's just walking around with like a good old Panera bread box, and just like pulls out like bread. And just, her land is heavily defended against Portos. It'd be hilarious. Let's see, Yaguara's Heart, Shuaran. Start with Shuaran. Skilled warriors of Shuaran village don't shapeshift like Ocello, though Ocello refuses to believe. Though Ocello refugees who believe Chikuna's rule is cursed and shun her protection can be found here. Opposed to the rule of Chikuna, Shuaran fear her deeply and might aid those who resist her, defining their relationships with strangers through a prickly, easily offended sense of honor. The Shuaran constantly guard against the local shrewdness of howling apes to the south near Yakum Beach. A soft and menacing whooping in the distance can be heard in the village at all times. Oh my gosh, Quantum Mouse, that's hilarious. A panini press in one hand and a leash in the other. For her, for her displacer beast. I love it. She's just standing there. Any party would stop and go like, she's a panini press? Why does she have a panini press? And then like, I could just see she like just clamps that over a PC's face, and they're like, I regret questioning the panini press. Oh man. Yaguara's Heart, the most secret of secret places in Valachan, Yaguara's heart lies at the center of a maze of mountains, southwest of Pantera Lodge. Within this canyon lies a small, crumbling temple nestled among treacherous cliffs and grasping forest. In the blood-painted caverns hidden beneath the temple lies a single stone altar bearing the still beating heart of Dark Lord Chakuna. Here, an aspiring Dark Lord can perform a ritual to consume Chakuna's heart and take her place as ruler of Valachan, or destroy it and loose the sapient rage of the rainforest on anyone trapped within the domain's borders. Yikes. Only Chakuna, the displacer beast Yana, and Von Karkov's remains know the location of Chakuna's heart, how to claim her power. Quantum Mouse, I love that. Why does my hand fit so well in this panini press? Why does it? It's a custom panini press that Chakuna made. It's for hands. It's like, boo! Oh, so good. Oh. In Valachan, the fall of one Dark Lord led inevitably to the rise of another. For Chakuna, caught in a cycle of bloodshed and trapped by the force that lends her power, the tools of the oppressor became the means of her bitter domination. The Dark Lord Yurik von Kharkov ruled from the now ruined Castle Pantera. Just Castle Panera, a fortress of tyranny and torment from which he hunted and from which he baked the people of Valachan for sport. Over untold years, the baking grew in complexity, and von Kharkov sought out the rarest, most dangerous of ingredients. It's a more dangerous Gamjabar. Very funny, Quantum Mouse. Let's see. Chakuna's people, the Ocello, became his favorite targets. The Ocello are hunters and people of the jungle, but by the light of the moon, many grow fur, claws, and fangs, revealing their true nature as watchful and dangerous lycanthropes. By the time Chakuna was a teenager, Von Kharkov had fine-tuned the horror of his hunts into a regulated tournament. He hunted her people to the brink of extinction, preventing their escape by closing the domain's borders and trapping them within the mists. Chakuna swore to save her people. She entered the tournament freely, determined to turn the tables on Von Kharkov or die. She vowed to sacrifice whatever it took to defeat the Dark Lord, but learned quickly that it takes monstrosity to beat a monster. Chakuna found Von Kharkov's weakness, burned Castle Panera to the ground, and kept the former Dark Lord's head. Right. Chakuna's powers and dominion. Chakuna gained her status as a Dark Lord when she defeated Yurik von Kharkov. In so doing, though, she discovered a terrible truth about the nature of Valachan, and she now lives to maintain the domain and the cycle of predator and prey. Chakuna has statistics similar to a were-tiger, but her animal and hybrid forms will have the appearance of a panther. Heartless. She has no heart, literally. At the height of her contest with Von Kharkov, she ripped it out of her chest with her fingers and placed it at the center of the Yaguara mountain maze, then replaced it by taking and eating Von Kharkov's heart. Doing so, she co-opted his powers and accursed immortality, and claimed Valachan as her own. With Yaguara's heart, the sacred nexus of the maze, Chakuna's heart still beats as one with the land, infinitely connected and as robust as the rainforest. But like anything that lives, her tie with the domain she's claimed must be maintained. Life eats life. And so Chakuna sacrifices the blood of the hunted to the land to maintain her grip on power. If she doesn't, the plants and animals of the domain grow hostile, threatening to wipe out all who dwell here. Okay, so guy who originally was like cool with all this, I wonder what his whole deal was, because being a Dark Lord is all about how you're being tormented, and all it described is that he loves going on hunts, and it's like, okay, well, what was his torment? Let's see. The Trial of Hearts. Shakuna has formalized the slaughter she must commit to maintain her tie with the domain as a ritualized battle royale known as the Trial of Hearts. That's going to be kind of fun to read, I bet. Closing the borders. When she chooses to close the borders of her domain, the seas grow rough and the mists rise. In addition to their normal effects, the mists of Valachan are home to displacer beasts and other deadly predators that attack all creatures they meet. Okay, the mist holds displacer beasts. That's enough to make you not want to leave. Terrifying. They're only challenge rating 3, but I would not want to fight dozens of displacer beasts. Jakuna's Torment. Her tie to Valachan is different from the domain bonds of most other Dark Lords, as hers is a willing bond. More so than a willing bond, like, this is her trying to save her people. She was endlessly steeped the land in blood to ensure her survival and protect her people from the vicious land. So that the hunts she vowed to stop now continue in her name. She shields her people from the slaughter, but the rest of Valachan is fair game. Yeah, that sucks. The whole web of life in Valachan bends to a singular malevolent consciousness that demands Shakuna prove her worth as its keeper and apex predator, lest it rise up to consume her people. In response, she is canny, remorseless, and vindictive. She comes to enjoy playing with her food, and she has a whole domain to feed. Well, if she's starting to enjoy it, then the land's not really torturing her anymore, is it? Or maybe it's one of those things where it's like, she's kind of like psyched herself up to enjoy it, but like the truth is that she's like dying inside all the time. Personality trait: I owe nothing to those I hunt. They are nothing more than prey. Ideal: if I'm cleverer than you, then I deserve to live, and you deserve to die. Bond: my people are the strongest people, and I ensure they survive. Flaw: everyone and everything lies. Only by expecting treachery will a hunter survive. I like the idea that her belief is like being clever is more important, because I like the idea of her like meeting some dude and he's like, I'm very clever but awful at fighting, and then like it's proven that he's like more clever than her but awful, just garbage at fighting. She's like, guess you deserve to live, but whatever. Valachan forces adventurers to survive in a wilderness that's not merely hostile, but is actively trying to destroy them. I mean, I guess not all of the other domains were doing that, but it kind of felt like the other domains were pretty bad in their own right. Other terrors in the domains of dread take the form of vicious villains or terrifying monsters, but in Valachan, the land is the greatest threat, and the domain's murderous Dark Lord hones that threat like a weapon. Trial of Hearts anchors the terror in Valachan. The domain's dangerous wilderness threatens anyone who explores the land. In addition to natural rainforest predators, dinosaurs and displacer beasts roam the domain. Its varied plant creatures include wicked twig blights, cruel treants, and manipulative dryads, all expressing the land's underlying bloodthirst. People of the land, the were-panthers of Ocello, the Schwarin, and remote groups of lizard folk might prove assistance to outsiders, but they don't might provide assistance to outsiders, but they don't tolerate those who insult their ways or bring Shakuna's wrath upon them. Parties without experience exploring dangerous wilds can enlist a guide to aid them, a service that the Ocello are particularly willing to provide. Valachan provides the opportunity to exaggerate everything the players and characters know about the threats of nature. The survival skill proves invaluable in navigating the rainforest, determining what kind of creature mauled a corpse, and understanding how different venoms afflict a jungle survivor. The primal power of the land manifests as environmental hazards, such as sudden storms, cliff walls made of vertical quicksand, and naturally occurring pit and snare traps. Whispering hollows, carnivorous plants, and cursing winds can overtly reveal the wilderness's hunger. Consider the plots on the Valachan Adventures table when planning adventures in this domain. I would really, we're not done yet, but I would really appreciate a chart with all of these things that they're talking about, because we have a whole book dedicated to monsters, so it's a lot easier to do monsters. I don't know of many wilderness survival things other than maybe in the DMG, but even that, I don't know if that's... Let's check. Environment... Adventure environments. Wilderness. We'll just start with wilderness, because hour-by-hour approach, mapping a wilderness, movement on the map, monuments, weird locales, wilderness survival, temperatures, winds, precipitation. These are nice, but high altitude. Here we go. Extreme cold, extreme heat. Okay, yeah. So that's good. That with charts like these from the DMG, I could do a little bit more. Desecrated ground, frigid water, quicksand. Huh. Razor vine, slippery ice, thin ice. So this would be really useful. Is this section of the DMG? I wasn't sure if they would have a lot of things, but they've got. I would prefer if they had more, but they have enough to get started and do like a one-shot that keeps the party like moving forward. And if you can do a one-shot with what's in the book, then you can probably start to figure out what you're going to do after you finish the one-shot by going online and Googling and stuff, getting your research in. So... The Ocello joyously adopt a new member into their community, but the ceremony erupts in strife when Shakuna appears and demands that all newcomers participate in the trial of hearts. Ouch. Shuaran warriors seek help in slaying a massive saber-toothed tiger killing their people. They don't mention that they recently lost the cat of Felkovic, a sentient magical item similar to a figurine of wondrous power that conjures a feline killer. I mean, that could be... do you really think those are linked? I don't know, guys. That doesn't seem... You know... Probably... yeah. A sapient giant spider emerges from the caverns known as the Council of the Whip Spider. Not the Whippet Spider? Whip it good! It demands that the Ocello provided a sacrifice, or every arachnid in Valachan will attack the village. Huh. That's awful. Tyrannosaurus Rex, called Mother Heartless, rampages from the forest of fossils, licensed by something amiss in her hunting grounds. The lizard folk of the lakes surrounding the Ankara plateau discovers a submerged ruin and unleashes an aboleth that now holds them in thrall. Beast-shaped treants, animate and lay siege to Pantera Lodge, obeying Uruk von Kharkov's will. Silly Kharkov! Treants are for trees! The merchant ship Zodiac runs aground on Kiru Island. The sailors seek help salvaging other shipwrecks and escaping back to sea, preferably before Chikuna notices them. A pack of displacer beasts wash up dead in Sangui Cove, and enraged Shakuna prowls the jungle, slaying anyone she suspects of being involved. Nice. The Trial of Hearts. Oh, hey. Interesting. Quantum Mouse says, I feel like lizard folk being controlled by an aboleth would be a lot of fun to run. It could be, yeah. Especially if you get them to like tell the party like, hey, there's something down there you should check out, and then the party gets like aboleth fight, and they're like, ah, no! Lizard folk flank them from behind. Hilarious. But yeah, could be a ton of fun. Anything that's like village dedicated to greater problem is usually a hilarious kind of like thing for people to deal with in D&D. I would say. Because the village, like, you don't... when you play D&D a lot, it's not that you see the village as, like, bad, but you kind of get used to the idea that they're not really there to help you. But them being there to actively harm you is a little like, no! How could this have happened? I was nice to them this time! So the Trial of Hearts. Those who venture into Valachan unprepared risk running afoul of Chikuna, becoming her quarry in the deadly Trial of Hearts. Scenarios like the following might lead the characters becoming involved in the trial. Unwitting criminals. Characters come to Valachan seeking a miracle plant, rare creature, or unique item, and are captured when they discover their prize is sacred to the domain's people, who deem themselves outsiders must participate in the Trial of Hearts. While traveling elsewhere, the party is shipwrecked and ambushed by a deadly predator. The characters awake in Valachan, where Chikuna treats them as trespassers. The mists deposit the consciousness of each of the characters into guests at Pantera Lodge. Whether the guests are recreational hunters, unsuspecting foreign nobles, or skilled local warriors, they'll soon discover that Chikuna's hospitality has a deadly ulterior motive. Consult the survivors section for options on how to represent those destined to become prey. That's interesting, having your consciousness dropped into guests. That could be a lot of fun. This guy. It's interesting. Art style usage. Rules of the trial. On the night of certain full moons, Chikuna selects 15 souls within her domain, whom she considers worthy prey in heavy quotes. She leads them to Pantera Lodge, shows them every courtesy, and then sets out the rules of her test. Contenders may divide into small groups or choose to participate alone. Once they are established at the trial's start, alliances between contenders are not permitted. Contenders must reach one of 2 shrines, either on Kiru Island or between the lakes called the Scars atop Ankara Plateau. Stretching. Contenders may leave Pantera Lodge at dawn the next day. Later that day at dusk, Chikuna will pursue the contenders with hunting parties of her choice, attempting to slay anyone she encounters outside of a shrine. Contenders may kill one another for any reason, particularly to take a shrine. Why do they need to kill each other? The trial does not stop for any reason until Chikuna arrives at both shrines and acknowledges the winners there. Winners are escorted to Shuaran, and from there out of Valachan. Losers rot where they fall in the jungle. Violations of the rules are punishable by death. Why would you kill each other during this test? Chikuna closes her domain's borders while the trial is underway and can change the hunt's rules on the... there we go. For example, if she catches a competitor too soon, she might offer to release them if they sacrifice an arm to feed her beasts. Oh, golly. Golly gee willikers. Gonna have to take that up, even though it's the worst. Impenetrable rainforests, jagged cliffs, and deadly rapids fill the wilderness of Valachan, and characters exploring the domain or participating in the trial parts must travel through these deadly wilds. Maps of Valachan can be obtained from the Ocello, the Shuaran people, or from Chikuna. The domain's jungles are difficult terrain, reducing a party's pace by half. This means characters can move through most of the domain at a normal pace of 1.5 miles per hour, 12 miles per day. Characters can move at a fast or slow pace, with effects as detailed in this handbook. So everything is difficult terrain. Characters able to fly find their flight slowed by strong winds, effectively difficult terrain, and might face deadly airborne creatures such as chimera harpies and pteranodons. Chikuna might also add rules to the Trial of Hearts that deem flight and magical travel off limits. If she does, the mists aid in enforcing these rules. As Dark Lord of Valachan, She is not impeded by difficult terrain in the domain's wilderness. Instead of tracking how she follows characters, instead of tracking how Chikuna follows characters participating in a hunt, have her appear to watch and toy with other participants, then confront the characters at the most dramatic moment. Excellent. It's interesting with the arm thing. Dangers of the trial. Valachan offers thousands of ways to die. Characters can encounter many of them during the Trial of Hearts, including jungle predators, animated plants, displacer beasts. Those who choose Kivru Island as their goal must cross treacherous waters to reach it, while those who head for the scars must climb the towering Ankara Plateau. Additionally, every hour the characters travel through the domain, roll on the Valachan Hunt complications table for an encounter. Characters traveling at a fast pace roll twice and use the lower result. Characters traveling at a slow pace roll twice and use the higher result. At both Kivru Island and the Scars, a shrine on stilts offers the only safety during the Heart of Trials. When Chikuna arrives at a shrine, whoever she finds inside wins the trial, or so she claims. Whether she abides by the rules of her trial is up to you. Ultimately, escaping her requires finding her heart and destroying it. It prevents Chikuna from recovering if slain. If the characters learn the secret of how she is consumed Von Karkov's heart, took his place as Dark Lord, any of them might seek to follow a similar path. Doing so requires replacing her heart with a character's own heart, or the land utterly rebels and tries to kill all sapient beings in the domain. Those who take Chikuna's mantle can ensure their allies' safety, but Valachan becomes their eternal prison. That's a lot. That's a lot. Oh, there's jewels here. Neat. Ah, the lower result is the worst result. Chikuna appears and attacks. Roll a die. If you roll an even number, this occurs during another complication, and you can roll again on the table. If you roll an odd number, she attacks suddenly without another complication. Dense foliage, swampy ground. Clouds of insects or thick fog slows the party's travel to a crawl. Party chooses one character who must succeed on a survival check, or party's travel speed is reduced by half for next hour. Area riddled with traps set by Chikuna. Random character must succeed on a DC 15 Wisdom check, or fall in a spiked pit. Tools, vine blights, or zombie plague spreaders ambush the party. Characters find a tree bound in rope. One or more withered attached to its branches. Roll a die. If you roll an even number, looks grim but harmless. If you roll an odd number, the 1d6 hearts have the statistics of gnashing, death's heads. That's cool. I didn't say this earlier with the last one, but I like when they say like it's this monster, but and then give you like how it looks different and acts different. Lots of insects, persistent leeches, other parasites torment the party. Encounter a druid, green hag, or displacer beast that is not part of the hunt. You succeed on a persuasion check, that creature shows them a route that allows them to move at double their speed for the next hour and avoid rolling on the table at the end of that time. No offense! But isn't a displacer beast... It's a monstrosity? Does it have... It doesn't have a language. This is... So, this honestly in the ultimate doesn't matter. But this is a perfect example of a skill doing more than it's supposed to. I can see persuasion working on a druid. I can see persuasion working on a green hag. But why have animal handling if animal handling isn't going to be used? Let me check. I'm not even sure if animal handling is a skill anymore. But like if it is, that should be used. Animal. There, yeah, it's there. It's there. It's a real thing. It says so right here. Animal handling's a real thing. There you go. And you know, honestly, it doesn't matter at all. But but you know, get a moment of like drama. It's like, hey, animal handling for Displacer Beast. That's what you should do. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Individual or group of competitors, gladiators, scouts, or tribal warriors attempts to ambush the party. Sucks. Whispers in the Druidic language issue from the boughs of trees and cracks in the earth. They repeat one word, blood. Perfect. A desperate competitor appears. Roll a die. If you roll an even number, the competitor is gravely wounded. If you roll an odd number, though, they're wounded, incoherent, and suffering from hallucinations. If you roll an odd number, they offer to help the party break the trial's rules and is struck dead by an arrow from the forest seconds later. I love that insanity. That's hilarious. A desperate competitor. Dinosaurs, giant poisonous snakes, or hydras attack the party. A rope bridge provides the only method of crossing a river or ravine. Each character must succeed on a DC 10 acrobatics to cross the bridge or fall 60 feet into the jungle or water below. The bridge has AC 11, 16 hit points, and immunity to poison and psychic damage. Cool. I think there's also... Is it... In Pathfinder, there was a rule about double damage. It takes half damage on... an object will take half damage on everything. So it might be interesting to check that out. Quantum Mouse says, I prefer to use my force of personality when dealing with dangerous animals. True! True. Very true. But still, like, the skill is supposed to be for... when you deal with that. I mean, technically it's a monstrosity, not an animal. You know, it's a magical beast that some wizard was like, hey, I've got a great idea. And then, you know, he died and his tower is infested with thousands of them now. I don't know how all monstrosities are made, but I know owlbears were made by wizards. And, you know, there's tons of them that are like that. Yeah, Quantum Mouse, exactly. As it goes. All of the bad things in D&D are a result of wizards with too much power saying, I have a great idea, and then just trying their best. Those are good wizards. Very good, friendly wizards. Quantum Mouse, you blame Volo. I think that's fair. Volo with his, I'm going to go talk about all the creatures. A wizard definitely was like, I need a pet horrible wizard in his book. I actually have a friend who made a character whose whole bit is that they hate Volo. It's hilarious. Oh my gosh. After the rope bridge, the party discovers an overgrown ruin. A character who succeeds on a DC 18 wisdom check will spot a relief carving of a wicked-looking figure ripping out its own heart. So it looks like what you really want to do is move slow. Quantum Mouse says, Volo actively encourages people to go out and create these monsters and never pays. Yes, that sounds accurate to Volo. I see someone got a house from Volo. One time. Party discovers an overgrown ruin. Yeah, relief carving of a wicked-looking figure ripping out its own heart. A random character must succeed on a DC 14 perception check or fall into quicksand. See the Dungeon Master's Guide. Panthers, displacer beasts, or were-panthers, were-tigers attempt to ambush the party. The characters discover the corpse of a competitor, roll a die. If you get an even number, the corpse has a potion of healing. If you roll an odd number, their heart has been removed. Perfect. Quantum Mouse, perfect. It's a house. No strings attached. There were strings, Volo! There were strings! Oh, it's true. It was haunted or something, right? I personally never got there. I never saw that, but I've heard of Volo and how he's just like awful. Party chooses one character who must succeed on DC 16. Survival check. On a failed check, the party becomes lost. It takes the characters 1 hour to realize they are 1d4 miles from their assumed location in a disadvantageous direction. 18 to 20, no complications. So... how long does it take to... I guess you would take the map. So you take the map, because it's got a 2-mile thing right there, and you need to get to a ton of wrecks. There's Pantera Lodge. Ankara Plateau. So that's like a lot. That's, let's see, this is my thumb about? Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. It's at least 10, so at least 20 miles. And then also the island? Hebrew Island, was it? So here, that one, or down on Kiru Island. Kiru Island seems like the harder one to do, but I see a lot of waterways you could try to, like, use for speed. It depends on whether the water is coming down or going in. Probably going in because of the ocean surrounding. Wild. Then, what's the advantage, disadvantage? Or just roll twice. There we go. Each hour. Okay. So yeah, you'd be walking for a while. I don't think you should... Based on the way they described it and how she leaves at dusk to chase you down, I would guess for the first 12 hours, you just don't allow for ones to work. She is following her rules, supposedly. Or she might not be, who knows. Anyway, that is Valachan. And from there, we are at the other Domains of Dread. We're going to move a little bit more quickly through this section, just kind of like looking at names that we find interesting. And that will be next time, because it is noon over here. So we're at our end. Thank you guys so much for showing up, those of you who did. It was great talking with all of you. And we will see you guys all next time. Monday, I think, is a bit more of control, and then Tuesday, I think we're getting back to doing multiplayer with Dr. Flatline. And then I think for Thursday, we're going to add a little more D&D stuff. Probably working on campaign stuff or something like that. Thank you, Quantum Mouse. You have a great one as well. And to everyone out there as well, have a great one. See you all next time.